So I've been reading this book, The Art of Empathy by Karla McLaren, and it's really blowing my mind in some really key ways. We're taught that there's like good emotions and then there's bad emotions. And what she proposes is that empathy is really born out of our ability to see emotions clearly for what they're there for. And so she walks through all the different sort of negative emotions and their purpose. We normally think of things like anger and fear as in their intense expressions. But she says that they're much more subtle expressions. They're actually the things that we really love, right? And so this idea that we're supposed to get rid of anger or get rid of fear is not really the goal. The goal is to notice them at lower frequencies so that we can use them for their good purposes. You know, anger is often some noticing that a boundary is needed, or that it's not safe to be yourself. And fear is often an awareness of a desire to protect yourself, right? Now, when it's at its loudest phase, we lose all ability to make good judgment. But she points out that like the goal here is to actually channel these. It's not to express anger or express fear or to repress fear or repress anger. Rather, there's this way in the middle called channeling, which allows you to take action on your negative emotion, while also caring for the other person. I've been sort of brought up in the New Age world, and Wayne Dyer and Ram Dass and Thich Nhat Hanh and all these, and they are all so focused on kind of ridding ourselves of these negative emotions. And I thought this was just a really powerful way of looking at it. And it's almost like, you know, I recently got my gut biome tested, and it's like there's a list of tons of bacteria in the gut. And if it's too low, if certain things are too low, that's bad. And if they're too high, that's too bad. That's bad. You want to get them in the middle. And I think that's where when we look at fear and anger and these sorts of things, they're actually good at lower doses. One of her things is that every emotion is a kind of neurological process in need of action. And so anytime we feel something, there's some action needed. It doesn't have to be an external action, it can be an internal action, but there's some action needed to resolve it. And the key thing is identifying and learning what actions are actually in service to you and to others for them. And so it's a great honoring of emotions instead of seeing them as sort of the enemy to resolution. They are often that's where the hint for resolution is. It's showing what's off. Emotions are always true. They're just not always right. In the sense that, like, if you're having an emotion, that's true. That is your experience, and that emotion must be addressed. It doesn't necessarily mean that the feelings or the thoughts you have associated with that emotion are actually accurate to what's actually happening. It just means that that's an emotion in need of addressing. And I have to say, I've probably dismissed a lot of my own and others' emotions over the years to the detriment of me and them and our connection. And this is waking me up a little bit to the nuance and the science behind these emotions and their power. And I've always known that processing that stuff is what brings us to joy and all that stuff. So that was an aha maybe 10 years ago. But this idea that even when we move into joy and all of these things, that these negative emotions are still really valuable, they're just more subtle. And that's where meditation comes in. That's where being able to sense these things at lower frequencies so that we can befriend them, so we can love them, and so that we can act upon them before they get really loud and super disruptive. So anyway, that's what's in my brain today. Enjoy.